You've been good, dear friend, loved by everyone. You didn't just help me during your long life, you helped generations, empowered everyone around you. A thank you will never be enough. After all these years of loyal serving, you had to be taken away. You might be gone, but you'll never be forgotten. We're just 1 year away till the death certificate of the carburetor will finally be signed. It was born in the late 1800s and it got to live a long and fruitful two-wheeled life. It was king of the streets, and when that era was over, it took over the off-road world. It really is one of the most important inventions of the 19th century, but unfortunately, as all good things in life, it's time to say goodbye.
Wait, haven't carburetors been gone for like almost 20 years now? Well, kind of, but also not really. Yes, the street bike world gave up on them in the early 2000s. A bit later, bikes like this, 4-stroke Enduros, also said goodbye to the good old carbs. But somewhere in the underground, a new sport was forming, and that's hard enduro.
And here, two-strokes and carburetors built a friendship that would take them all the way to 2024. Sort of like the friendship you could develop with that subscribe button. Thanks. You see, it's a place where people still wanted street-legal bikes, at least on paper.
But then you also need something extremely simple, reliable. Something that's extremely unlikely to die if or when the bikes get crashed. And with simplicity comes lightness.
Which is exactly what two-strokes and hard enduro needed. It was a match made in heaven.
Yet in 1 year, things will change. You see, this last breath of the carburetor is going to die off. But why now? Long story short, it's all about the EU and their emission laws.
These new Euro 5 standards are so stringent that no manufacturer could figure out a way to continue the legacy. So even the two-strokes, these last flag bearers, have to switch to fuel injection. Sort of like what KTM did a few years ago.
But in order to really understand the reasoning, we have to understand how carburetors work. Because as soon as we do that, we'll understand why their lifelines have run out.
In a nutshell, a carburetor is an attachment to the intake that mixes gas and air. But the way it does that is pretty rudimentary. You see, carbs only have one setting, they don't rely on sensors, and so they're amazing in one particular scenario, but less than ideal in all others.
You see, gasoline gets pulled out from the bowl, depending on the passage width and on the amount of air coming in through the intake. And those measurements are not adaptable.
You see, air can be more or less dense, it can be colder or hotter. There are so many parameters to which a carb just can't adapt. And in a world where tolerances are getting incredibly small, this principle just can't work any longer.
But wait, if these new regulations only come about in 2024, why did the KTM group change so soon, but others like Sherco and Beta didn't? And speaking of, why didn't these smaller guys have to adapt earlier? Why just now? The most popular myth is that guys like Sherco and Beta are small manufacturers, and so they were exempt from some of these emission standards. And this myth is about as true as the fact that I once bit Jarvis at a hill climb. No, it all lies in the different approaches of these brands. You see, initially the goal was to switch to Euro 5 by 2020. The EU realized that for some classes of motorcycle, the switch would not be economically viable, so they postponed it to 2022 and later to 2024.
Now, KTM had already worked on fuel injection for two-strokes, so they just went full on with that idea.
But so did Sherco. The reality is, Sherco also had the fuel injection project ready to go, but when they saw the goalpost being moved, they just moved with it.
In their own words, they didn't see any advantage in the fuel injection technology for what they were building, so there was no point to go there.
And they were kind of right.
But there's also something else. You see, brands like Sherco are like a speedboat.
Unstable, but really quick to steer. They can dodge waves left and right. On the other hand, KTM is an oil tanker. It's as stable as they get, but steering it takes some time.
You see, Sherco and the likes have the luxury of adapting quicker simply because they're smaller. It's business 101. And by the time goalposts have been moved, KTM could have been so heads down into their TPI tech that they were past the point of no return. Of course, this is all speculation on my end. It's extremely hard to know exactly what happened. What we do know and can do is remind ourselves why people like me are so in love with this ancient technology, and why two-strokes carried it for so many years. And to do that, I had to drive about 15 hours to a little hard enduro paradise, a little island in Greece.
My head is underwater. I thought I didn't need you, but while I'm drowning slowly, I realize that I've been missing you like crazy. My head is underwater, 'cause I thought I didn't need you. My lungs are wide open now.
You see, a carb feels like an extension of your hand. It's not a tool, it's a direct connection to the engine. No electronics to slow you down. And the power and feel you get out of it, it's something that I have never experienced on a TPI bike before. No delay, low down grunt, high end power. It's so hard to describe how good a well-tuned carb can feel. You have to ride it. And when you do, it's hard to imagine switching to anything else. And the simplicity of it. No electronics, no sensors to go wrong, you set it and forget it. It never stands in the way, never leaves you stranded. And if something does happen, anyone can open it up on the side of the trail without requiring a MacBook. But most importantly, this is technology that has been perfected for more than a century. It had time to mature, to grow, and it got to a point where it's pretty much perfect. Or at least as perfect as it can get. Because in scenarios like this, you don't care about emissions, about strict fuel consumption, you only care about riding, feeling the bike, every little inch, every little centimeter. This is precision stuff.
'Cause I realize I've been missing you like crazy. Missing you.
Bun, putem. Vezi dacă sunt ok.
Exact ce voiam eu. Filmezi selfie.
Okay, no, for the real ones. You see, it can be bad to jump on every new bandwagon, but it can be even worse to never jump at all. Look, TPI was just the start. We're comparing 5-year-old tech to tech that had over a century to mature. Of course it wouldn't be better. That's what street riders said in the beginning too. But we have to move on. You see, it's not a grim perspective. Fuel injection has real advantages, even ones we care about, unlike stupid emission laws. They can run better, they can be more adaptable to altitude and external factors. The potential of this technology is there, and that's why I think we should look forward to 2024 instead of looking at it with a sad face.
This will be the year when the last new mass-production carbureted bikes will sit on showroom floors. But it will also be the year when fuel injection will be better than it ever was. And as time goes on, it will just keep getting better and better and better.
You see, the death of the carburetor is no different than our own species. Someone dies and people mourn. We say our eulogies, we're sad. But time fixes everything. As it goes by, we tend to move on. And this moving on comes with our progress as a species. And carbs are no different. They've been loved and always will be. But at times we simply have to accept it, say our goodbyes, and carry on. Ultimately, it is for the better. Thanks a lot for watching this video. You might also be interested in this one covering the reason why KTM bought Husqvarna and gas in the first place. Also, please subscribe to the channel, and until next time, have a good one. Bye.